Hey everybody, welcome to another Friday Technique video. I'm JL Holdsworth with Spot Athletics. Today we're going to go over foot position in the bench setup. We had a lot of issues with this with a lot of our athletes, but a lot of powerlifters I think struggle and aren't real sure where to put their feet. The thing you have to remember with this is it's very individual. One, it's not about feeling comfortable the first time you do it, it's about how your body's built to maximize your leverages. If we can get your chest up a little higher and maintain tightness, then that gives you a shorter bench stroke, which will give you a bigger bench press. So don't look at a certain bench presser and say he bench presses the most or she bench presses the most and this is how she do it, because your levers are going to change based on like the length of your torso, the mobility in your T-spine, the makeup of your pelvis, how tight your hip flexors are or loose, your quads. So there's a lot of factors that go into setting up in the bench press. It's highly specific for the person. So what we're going to show you today is several different ways to do it and really play around with all of them to find what your shortest bench stroke is. Don't think about it as what's most comfortable, because the first time you set up for the bench and do it properly, it will be very uncomfortable. Your lower back will probably feel like it's going to cramp, and that's okay. It's not supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to get you big weights. Remember, cool ain't comfortable. Big bench is cool, so it ain't gonna be comfortable. All right, so I'm gonna use my one of my strength coaches, Lily. She's gonna help me out so that I can show a couple different bench foot positions. All right, so Lily's our model here. So the four basic positions we have for foot setup, we have two tucked positions and we have two untucked positions. Anytime you're in a tucked position, the way I define this is my foot is tucked under or mostly behind my butt. Untucked, they're out in front of your butt, and they will most likely be directly under your knee or slightly behind your knee. It all depends on which one you use based on your levers, how tight you are, how you're built. So the first thing we're going to go over is tucked position with feet close to the bench. So what we want to do is we want to slide back to our shoulders are just a little bit off the bench. We want to tuck our feet underneath and slightly behind our butt if we can. With feet tucked position, you are always on your toes. Your feet, if your feet are flat, you are not tucked enough. So from this position on our toes, we want to pull ourselves back up under the bar in good position. As you can see, Lily's got a nice arch going right now. She's on her heels. But what you will notice is she's about to unrack the bar. Her heels will try to push to the floor. They will never get there, but she will try to push, and her chest will come up. So stop pushing with your heels. You see her lower. Now she's going to get prepared to unrack the bar. She's going to bring her heels down, chest up. And you see how much more of an arch she gets there. So that's our position. We're on our toes, but we say heels to the floor. Heels to the floor. If she was going to unrack it, you see what a big difference that makes. Feet tight to the bench and tucked under. But remember, you got to try to push those heels to the floor. They'll never get there, and if they do, you don't have your feet tucked up under you enough. As you can see, the heels or the feet are underneath her lower back. Depending on your mobility, your flexibility, it'll depend on the position a little bit. But if they're not behind your butt, then you're not tucked under enough, and if your feet are flat, they're not tucked under enough. Another position we're going to go from feet tucked. She'll start in the same setup position. This time, though, we're going to go really wide. Now, this you have to be very, very flexible through your hips. Lily is not flexible for her hips. This would not be a good position for her to set up in because she can't get the arch, and her T-spine mobility isn't great, so she has a hard time getting out wide here. So this way, you want to be very, very wide, and you'll actually get a much better position. And as she tucks, so here you can see she's not going to get as big of an arch, even though heels to the floor. She can get her heels down. It's not quite as good of a position for her. So you have heels close or feet close to the bench, feet wide. Now we're going to go our feet untucked. Here our feet will be flat. We'll be driving on a position. People with tight quads and hip flexors will feel much more comfortable in this position. A lot of times bigger guys are much more comfortable in this position, but it just depends again on your mobility and your tightness. When we're setting up in front, we do not want to get our shoulders all the way off the bench. We just want to have like our head or our top of our head off that bench. Then what we'll do is our feet are almost set up, as you can see from Lily's, kind of directly underneath her knees. As she pulls herself into position, those feet are going to be just a little bit behind our knees, but as you can see as I move the camera, her feet are nice and flat. So from that flat foot position, then she's going to be able to create drive out of her bench press. Now, with this, she's slightly wider than shoulder width. There's two options on the untucked position as well. You can go feet where she is, which is slightly wider than shoulder width, or if she moves her feet out even wider, which a lot of people prefer to do, then she can be in a better position to drive. This depends again on what your mobility or hips are. Play around with these 4 different positions, but as I bring the camera back around to the side, you can see for Lily, this would be an awful setup bench position for her because her arch is nowhere near what it is in the tucked position. So there you have your 4 different bench setup positions with your feet. Play around with them, find what works best for you. Remember, if you're a beginner, do all of them, see what works best, because if you haven't mastered the lift yet, then you've got a lot of things to fix. But in general, we have feet tucked, feet untucked. Both of them, you can be close or you can be wide. If you're tucked, you're always on your toes. If you're untucked, your feet are flat. So play around with your positions. Hopefully this helps you out a lot.
So there you have your 4 different bench setup positions. With those feet close, a lot of people really like to hug the bench with their knees. Again, it's individual preference. Remember, at the highest level, if someone's bench pressing 900, 1,000 pounds, there's gonna be individual expression of skill for master lifters. The stuff we went over today, we're talking about basic people who bench 200, 300 pounds, maybe 400 pounds. We're really trying to figure out their individual style. Until you're at a master level, we don't like to say that there's really an individual expression of skill because you're not that good of a lifter if you're not at a master level. But remember, our 4 positions we can play around with: feet tucked, untucked, wide, narrow. And remember, if you're tucked, you better be on your toes. And the cue we always use around here is heels. That doesn't mean your heels will touch the floor. You're trying to get them there. It'll bring that chest up. Thanks, I hope you enjoyed this other Friday technique video. Have a great weekend. Go to thespotathletics.com and go like us and tell your friends to like us at The Spot Athletics on Facebook. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Spot Athletics. Thanks, have a great weekend.